why is Elden Ring running like crap on the Switch 2 when it runs just fine on the Steam Deck? It doesn't make sense. I'm Jeff Grubb. Thanks for tuning in. I need a haircut, but we're just going to have to do something about that another time. I mean, what the hell? Yeah, so we got a little bit of time removed from when this was all talked about coming out of Gamescom. People went hands-on with Elden Ring for the Switch 2, and all of the reports, all of the hands-on, everyone's very concerned about the way that that game runs on the Switch 2. And I guess to recap, to give you an idea, if you haven't been paying attention, the game is dropping to like 15 frames per second. It looks unplayable, especially in handheld mode, which is why the comparison to the Steam Deck is so apt. Now, of course, it's apt because the Switch 2 should be considered, hey, that's like a Steam Deck, but more powerful, more capable. So what is going on here? Because if you are also unaware of this, Elden Ring runs just fine for the most part on the Steam Deck. It is, you can like get a decent like 40 frames per second. I played all 150 hours that I played of that game, and then I played Erdtree on there as well. So add another however many hours that was on top of that. Without any issue. And it's not just without issue, it was a fine experience. And if you look back, maybe the answer to this lies into Nintendo being Nintendo. Why does Elden Ring run so well on the Steam Deck? Well, this is something that we actually understand, and it goes back to the launch of that game. That game came out around the time that the Steam Deck was coming out, and Valve was very hands-on in making sure that that game ran well on that device. Going so far as to dedicate their own resources at Valve to including a shader compilation update, I believe is how it went for Elden Ring specifically in the Steam Deck's update, so that the system knew how to handle that thing. And it actually made it so that game ran more smoothly on the Steam Deck than any other platform at launch, because on console and on PC, on other platforms, the game was building its shaders, which if you ever played a multiplayer game or any game recently where it's like, hey, we're compiling shaders right now before we're going to let you play. This is a process that the system does where it tries to understand all of the shader cores that the system is going to need to be able to display the game properly. Well, if you know the game, and you know the exact hardware, you can do that. Now, they don't always do that on consoles and a lot of other places, just because games get updated so frequently. They just kind of just build the shaders as the game is going. But for the Steam Deck, and I'm no expert, I'm just trying to lay some groundwork here so we can get to why it's maybe not running so great on the Switch 2. On the Steam Deck, Valve did that work and made sure it was there and ready to go. And that's important because From Software was certainly not going to do that work. They don't do that work. In terms of tech prowess, in terms of visual capabilities of getting a game running in a solid way so that they look good and play smoothly and have a solid frame rate, that's not From Software's forte. From Software is kind of an absentee father when it comes to improving the visuals of their games or making updates or really just getting a solid frame rate out of the gate in the first place. Even for a game like Elden Ring, one of the biggest games to ever release, FromSoft was very slow. I remember when Elden Ring launched on PC, launched everywhere at the same time, but I was on PC, so that's what I was paying attention to. I remember it came out and it was 1.0 without any updates for like 2 months straight. I don't know how many other games that happens to. Big games. All other big games tend to get quite a few updates in those first couple of months. From Software takes their sweet time. And are they hurting for it? Absolutely not. So, hey, if it works for you, don't change it for sure. But that means that a game like that on a platform like the Switch 2, where it is not a very attentive company like Valve making sure that this game is going to run great on their new device, this is Nintendo, who is very hands-off and is likely not providing the same kind of support. So you have Nintendo not taking an interest, and you have FromSoft not taking an interest in their own goddamn game. Just knock my glasses down. Boy, FromSoft, what is your deal? I love you, and you're incredibly frustrating. So what should the expectations be here? Well, I think the expectations should be low. Like, I'm not going to sit around and hope against hope that we get some magical update for Elden Ring between now and when it launches on the Switch 2 that's going to make that game run really well all of a sudden. Just I don't believe in FromSoft's capability or interest in doing that, and I don't think Nintendo is going to step up and do that. So where does that leave that game? I mean, it'll probably run a little bit better than what we've seen so far from these early builds, but I'm not expecting it to be a good experience on the Switch 2, which is a real shame because there is no reason that they shouldn't be able to get it up and running in a very decent way. So it's really frustrating because the Switch 2 has a 120 hertz refresh rate screen. So if you got this game locked in at 40 frames per second on the Switch 2, you could just like triple those frames and just perfectly slot into 120 frames per second. And it would look very nice. That would be a great way to play that game. But yeah, as it stands, I'm going to stand back and assume the worst here and let these companies surprise me. Now, is there no hope? Not necessarily. Nintendo has made some acquisitions recently. I believe there is a company called Shiver. You know what? I'm going to check real quick. Yeah, it's Shiver. I just paused the recording real quick, came right back. Shiver Entertainment, Nintendo acquired them recently. This was a port studio who's responsible for some pretty decent work. And excitingly, recently, they are the ones responsible, at least in some way, for the very good port of WWE 2K25 on the Switch 2, which I have not played it, but by all accounts, that's a really decent version of that game. So you do have a team out there that is sort of, I don't know if they are Nintendo's going to dispatch them in emergencies. This was probably something where 2K asked for help and Nintendo could point them to Shiver, or maybe this is something Shiver was already working on and Nintendo had nothing to do with it. But this team does exist. Nintendo could be dispatching them and other experts inside of their home there and send them out to studios like FromSoft to give them help to get big, important games up and running in a way that is acceptable on the Switch 2. As it stands, though, everything I just said there is essentially fantasy booking. That is me, like, writing fan fiction about what could happen at Nintendo. There's no reason to assume that's going to be the case. So let's go back to the default here of don't get your hopes up for the Switch 2 version of Elden Ring. Let's just assume that Nintendo's going to drop the ball and FromSoft is going to drop the ball. These are companies that tend to do that with technology and with working with partners in Nintendo's case specifically. So yeah, I hate to be all negative, but really, I think I'm actually just being realistic and then maybe I guess pessimistic. Let's admit I'm being pessimistic here. Hopefully I'm wrong. If you are mad and you think I'm wrong, you would definitely let me know in the comments. Like, I would be happy to be wrong. I want Elden Ring to be awesome on the Switch 2, but let's wait and see. All right, thanks for watching. Until next time, have a good one. Take care of yourself, and goodbye.